I think that there are three pieces of advice that I have come across over the years about writing and being a writer that always sort of have stuck with me. And the first one's quite a funny one actually, because it seems so obvious, but it's so true. And it's sit down and write. And a lot of people think, okay, but the reason for that is that people wait for inspiration. They think they're going to get this fantastic idea or they're going to be struck by inspiration. That is not how it happens. You have to sit down and write. And that is such great advice. Don't wait for the inspiration. Just sit down and start writing, and hopefully inspiration will come as you're writing. But if you don't start, you're never going to get anywhere. So that would be the first thing. The second bit of advice that I would have learned, which I think is very true as well, is you have to be honest and authentic in your writing. Don't try to write like somebody else. Don't try to be J.K. Rowling or some other writer. You have to write as yourself. It's the only way that you're ever going to be successful. And you have to have a certain amount of belief and confidence that if what you find that you're writing is interesting, then it's going to be interesting to somebody else, as long as you're being authentic and true to yourself. And I think that was a very important piece of advice for me, because I think we are always comparing ourselves to other people, and we're thinking, wish I could write like them, or I really like their style. You can't. They're different people. You have to be true to yourself. And then the third thing that I would have heard would just be really a recommendation, which would be a book that I read, which is one of the best books I've ever read on writing, and it's actually called On Writing. The book is entitled On Writing by Stephen King, and he talks about writing through sort of his own life story and how he came to be a writer. But that book is just filled with gems on writing and sitting down and really having, he talks an awful lot about the discipline of writing, but he also has some great advice about adverbs. Get rid of the adverbs, and he gives you really little golden nuggets about writing. So those would be the three things really that have stayed with me. Well, I think my first book was non-fiction, so I'm going to talk about writing a non-fiction book, because that's my area of knowledge. And I think there are several things that you need to know. First of all, you need to have a very clear idea of what you're writing about. It sounds simple, but it's extremely important. A lot of people just start writing a book and they really don't know. They haven't researched enough, so do your research before you start. Many writers write differently and don't have much of a plan. Some writers say they don't have a plan. I think if you're writing non-fiction, it's essential to have a plan. And by that I mean a structure. So literally beginning, middle and end. How are you starting the book? What are your main points in the middle, and how are you going to wrap it up? So it's essential to, first of all, do your research. Secondly, have a structure. And thirdly, know your topic. You have to know your topic inside out. It was easy for me. It was my father. I knew him pretty well. But I learned a lot about him that I didn't know. And so the quality of questions is also essential. What questions are you going to ask? What do you need to find out? And that all comes under the research banner. And what I really learned was that if you don't do that properly, you find then it will come back to bite you, because if you haven't asked the right questions and then a question occurs to you later, you have to go back. Or you've realised that you haven't researched a particular part properly, you have to go back and do it all again. It's much easier. Unfortunately, it didn't happen to me. I think it was only one occasion it happened to me, but it's essential that you start with a good structure and a good plan and do your research so that you have those questions. And particularly, I think, for non-fiction, it's essential that you know your topic. Yeah.